A star witness in the case of Cassie Ventura, who was Sean Diddy's case brought before the government taking the stand and testifying, is Commas. With regard to the nutjob stationed at crux of the matter involving Commas, and according to her, she was a victim of abuse at his use their hands. In the midst of the most unsettling excerpts from the testimony of Cassie Ventura, so, oral accompaniment far. This is Crime Fix. Dear Sir Madam, Mr. Levi, I simply desired for it to conclude. Cassie Ventura informed the jury of that, concerning the case of Sean Comey's crazy people. Those were the freak-offs, sex parties that might last for days if Ventura were to engage in intercourse with a man, staff members. According to Ventura, Sean Combs commanded the nut jobs, and both she and it is likely that Combs found these male sex employees to engage in these activities by online classified site. Combs was the one that Ventura mentioned. Controlled every aspect, employing infant oil, and Ventura's sex acts alongside the escorts, the narcotics that medications taken, such as Viagra, and how long among the nut jobs. The freaks resorted to position in the houses of Combs in various urban areas, in the houses of Ventura, and in inns around the world. Furthermore, in a few in other cases, these outliers evolved into violent. And according to federal prosecutors, it is proven by their evidence. The video in question is this one is seen from a Los Angeles hotel corridor in March of 2016. This depicts Combs pursuing escape from a hotel suite with Cassie Ventura. We have made some changes to it. What Ventura claims, then Combs kicked her, punched her, and dragged her on the opposite side of the room while she attempted to turn off the maniac. Ventura gave an account of in this manner while standing. I decided to depart. I gathered what I could find and I obtained outside, and Sean accompanied me into the corridor leading up to the elevators and seized, pulled me to my feet, tossed me to the floor, and fouled, attempting to yoke me back into the chamber. Everything that belonged to me was stolen by him. Yeah. What Ventura was informed Combs stated in a text message her desire to her to take part in the freak-off not only premiered a film, but she was afraid of injuring her body, but during her testimony, she expressed her desire to so she wouldn't be able to sabotage the premiere of her upcoming film. After that, she went into further depth about what took place. Supposedly, Ventura was hit by Combs. She made the decision to depart. A companion known as Jules remained in the suite at the hotel until the moment. Following his collision with and I recently witnessed its outcome, I had to escape. That much was certain. In that case, when it's unclear what exactly diverted his attention, his activities. Either he was in the shower or while talking on the phone. All I did was seize abandoning my belongings in a flash. I possibly be able to do, said Assistant United States Attorney Emily. Johnson proceeded to inquire, and where? Where you were going when you were unable to access room. I was headed, Ventura said in response. Restaurant to my apartment, Johnson inquired. Then what occurred? In response, Ventura said, I reached the elevators. I put on my sneakers, and the following thing I was simply flung to the floor. Ventura went on to say, yeah, it was swiftly dropped to the floor. You mentioned that you received your shoes on by the time you reached the moving platform. How did you lose your sneakers prior to this? In response, Ventura said, I believe my luggage included sneakers. I just bolted out the door barefoot, Johnson exclaimed. Inquired, why did you disappear without a trace? Shoes, huh? Swifter action was taken by Ventura. You said you were thrown, Johnson inquired. From the elevator lobby below. No one, hurled, are you available? In response, Ventura said, Sean, he seized me by the nape of my neck hoodie and flung me to the floor without a word. Here we have yet another lawful offense alert. You should know that the birth vaccines, and then found out a tumor located in the brain or spinal cord known as a meningioma. You could be able to undergo that is involved in a legal dispute. Just as Morgan & Morgan is examining allegations that individuals underwent, did not get adequate risk warnings. It's quite at no cost to you. An absolute minimum of minutes, with no payment required until they win. That being said, just use your screen, visit or click the link, go to forthepeople.com LC and see if you meet the requirements. Johnson proceeded to stroll through the film featuring Ventura. Ventura was the one she approached and requested the number of times Sean Combs had tossed her to the floor in that manner. Also, she mentioned quite a few. As the freak-offs progressed, sessions were mentioned by Cassie. And during their time together, she and Combs might increase her drug use, and she asserted she endured moments of suffering when the medication's effects, and she freely acknowledges for emotional support she frequently took them. Johnson inquired, how frequently could you receive unpleasant side effects of ecstasy or MDMA? Nearly every time, Ventura said in response. Just before the real high kicked in, I would am sick to my stomach. For the most part, it was not out of the ordinary, Johnson inquired. Would you simply feel sick or throw up? Feel queasy? In response, Ventura said, I would in fact throw up. Yeah, Johnson inquired. Did Sean have any idea what impact that the effects of MDMA and ecstasy on you? It's Ventura told Johnson. Yeah, but Johnson wanted to know how. Because he would see, Ventura said in response. To the restroom with me, or I'd inform him in order for him to be aware, Johnson inquired. What would Sean say, if anything? Was MDMA or ecstasy the cause of your illness? Ventura got back to her. His speech was sparse. It's safe to assume that he would inspire me to stand up and keep going, carry it out under those conditions. You know, that was medicines in general. Ventura claimed that Colby's invite her, or the escorts to come with you. Johnson wanted to know if there had been any times where the escorts were offered drugs by Sean similar to Viagra. In response, Ventura said, yeah. And who else besides them? Johnson inquired. Were the escorts to whom Sean offered Viagra? In response, Ventura said, he gave it to me. And what did he do before? Johnson inquired. Regarding your use of Viagra? It's Ventura responded by saying it impacts on females, simply empathy. How can I help you? Johnson inquired. Do you use the Viagra he prescribed to you? Do you? I did, Ventura said in response. Johnson inquired. And how were your emotions? In response, Ventura said, sensitive and full to the brim. Johnson inquired, would you like how does one take Viagra? In response, Ventura said, no, I didn't think so. I didn't, Johnson said. Inquired, when escorts were experiencing difficulties building, what would happen if anything went wrong, the effects that you see on their failure to acquire an erection? Just like I said, Ventura remarked. Prior to this, the mere diversion of seeing Sean could be merely listening as he moves around. His voice, Ventura remarked about the nut jobs, took great effort to coordinate with the way they developed was dictated by comems. How would you discern when? Johnson inquired. So as to take that step. In response, Ventura said, a simple, do it and hope it works, would suffice. Would be better in terms of timing, he informed them. Who would inform you? Johnson inquired. If you were to ask Sean, he would tell me. If you were able to relocate from physical contact for masturbation, what are the reasons behind this? Inquire with him? According to Ventura, it was his fantasy. He had complete command over the entire situation. He was in charge of it. He was involved lighting the set. We were informed by him things to do, say, and be in where you are. Johnson continued, and you attested to the fact that on occasion you might directly into oral sex. For what reason would one desire to progress to the subsequent sex act? Ventura is said, I'd simply attempt to speed up the move forward. To be honest, if I complete it, then it will be over and we can go on. Go on and do something else. I merely desired it's going to end. While testifying, Cassie ran down the steps of preparation. That experience is a panic attack. Nathan Combs gave her the task of contacting the man's sexual service providers. When you, Johnson inquired, reached out to a private guide, what if, have you thought of anything to say to the escort? Concerning the reason for your engaging that escort, what should I do? It depended, Ventura said in response, regarding things such as the scenario, their entrance, however. In most cases, I would state that my spouse participates in voyeurism, and while I'm with another man, he enjoys watching. It resembled a simple discussion that I while escorting most of the clients. From in that place I could tell if they were ready to take the plunge or not, Cassie said, later gradually began to understand her directed to inquire about specific matters in evaluating candidates. How can I help you? Johnson inquired. Sometimes, you mentioned, Sean requested that you inquire as to whether an individual was a law enforcement official, doesn't it? In response, Ventura said, yeah. Johnson inquired, and you mentioned afterwards, the reason behind it? To which Ventura replied, sure. Johnson wanted to know, what did you do? Find out. My response is from Ventura. What I discovered, the entire scenario did not comply with the law. A defense attorney raised an objection. The objection was upheld by the judge, that the jury ought to skip over the witness's final answer. Listen, I've had occasions when, according to Cassie Ventura, she actually made contact with using an assumed identity, these folks. Jackie Star was the one, and Comeys would go by aliases. Their status was White Frank and Black Frank. John Q. Johnson. At first was, Ventura was asked. As a freak-off, Sean was forthright about his one's genuine self. He, Ventura said in response, wasn't. How, if at all, Johnson inquired. At all, was his true identity concealed? In response, Ventura said, well, he started where the masquerade masks are worn. On occasion he wear a cap or other head covering. Were you open? Johnson inquired, of him, making reference to his face. Concerns your actual identity? It's Ventura told Johnson I was not either, inquired. And what did you do, if anything? To remain anonymous? It's Ventura said in response. The same thing concerning the face covering. Wigs? I'd rock 'em, Johnson inquired. A wig? Who requested that you wear one? It's Ventura Sean. Cassie Ventura, it was made public the sum that the escorts could normally present to the jury. Johnson inquired. In regard to the escorts that you met, how much did they earn? Tens of thousands of dollars to accomplish? It's Ventura to ejaculate, they said. Johnson says, to finish. Inquired. Wait till they've completed being intimate with you? In response, Ventura said, after a lengthy session, after having sex? And for all the dancers, Johnson inquired. People with whom you dealt at freak-offs were also those people charged? It's Ventura replied with a yes. Johnson then inquires, how, when they performed, how much did those dancers earn? Stopped by freak-offs. In response, Ventura said, in the intervals I specified, anywhere between from $1,500 to $6,000 in the past or $7,500. However, in the event that Sean Comeys was satisfied with the results, their compensation had that effect. All right, Johnson inquired. Whilst escorts were ejaculating on their clients, could someone, if anyone, direct them to outsperm? Sean, Ventura retorted, often stood directly over it. Directing Johnson wanted to know, where could it be? On sometimes ejaculated escorts without prior instruction. Then Johnson wanted to know if Ventura said yes. When were those instances? They got paid less, Ventura fired back. What, if anything, was Johnson's question. When EDI escorts ejaculated, Sean said, without prior instruction? Ventura said he was quite receptive. In light of the fact that his dissatisfaction with how well they did, therefore it's safe to assume that he would save some cash. And, Johnson was curious, as you entered the adjacent room, you mentioned that Sean requested that you include. Ventura said, in response to the semen on him. Did you do that? Johnson followed up by asking. At Johnson's question, Ventura replied, I did. Where did you stashed it? It's Ventura answer, typically atop his chest, atop his nipples. Johnson then inquired, would you like to accomplish that? No, was Ventura's response. Ventura proceeded to testify regarding escorts, occasionally struggling to from a sexual perspective. And what did? Johnson inquired. Sean is responsible for when the escorts were problems getting an erection. Ventura declared. He would encourage them, she said. They most surely failed to receive your regular salary. I am aware. How are you aware of that? Johnson inquires. What was that? In response, Ventura said, because he informed me, and he informed them, I understand. There was no actual secrecy. When you say he who is, Johnson inquires. Does he? Then Ventura spoke up. Sean, you. At this point, everyone is aware of the ridiculous quantity of infant formula purchased from Sean Combs' property throughout those invasions in the past March of 2024. But prior to this, Cassie's evidence incorporates that quantity of infant oil into context. Johnson inquired. You brought up. It was decided to use baby oil since needed to be shimmering, Ventura said. Asked, who, after receiving the response, advised you that you should glistening? Sean, Ventura said in response. He preferred it, Johnson inquired. The question is, how often should baby oil be used to produce a shimmer? It's Ventura about once every 5 minutes, they replied. What if any of it? Johnson inquired. Remarks would Sean offer regarding the necessity infant massage oil? In response, Ventura said, "He might if he thought you were also uncooked, he would inform you," Johnson said. Wanted to know, what would he say? It's Ventura that he would say, "You're too dry. Additional oil is required or you should shine brightly. You should, yeah. You must radiate. Yeah. Because satisfying the need, it's easy to see why." Sean, over 1,000 bottles were in Combs' possession. When he was a father at his home, Johnson inquired, "Roughly how quite a few baby oil bottles in the course of a normal attack?" It's Ventura replied, "Quite a bit. My recommendation is that you without a doubt near 10. In response, Johnson said, "How big were those bottles?" In response, Ventura said, "The larger proportions of the bottles." Johnson inquired, "Were those terrifying moments when you realized you were completely depleted of essential oil for babies?" The lawyer for the defense raised an objection. "You must honor, it's now acquiring a small total." The court's ruling was, "How about we try to finish this off and proceed?" Johnson then contacted the inquiry. Astrolide was also brought up. At the freak-offs, how did they use that? The defense raised a further objection, totally unrelated. Quoted by Emily Johnson, "Your respect, it's a provision," and the judicial body then proceeded to the sidebar. Once upon a time, according to Ventura, Sean Combs set construct a complex freak show with the use of a blow-up swimming pool of a Beverly Hills hotel. Emily Johnson, an assistant U.S. attorney, asked Ventura, "What worries did you encounter? Consider not entering the pool using the baby oil." Ventura reacted, "That along with other matters alone his temper. In the event that he finds that to be it is what Sean had hoped would happen what was about to transpire. It didn't an alternate approach. Yet another method Cassie was controlled by Combs, according to what Ventura said in her testimony. During the beginning of our connection in which he hoped I would find given him a moniker, and I was hesitant to speak to him in any way that other people reached out to him. Thus he inquired, as to what I reached out to my grandpa and exclaimed, 'Pop?' Miss Johnson inquired, 'Pop, how did you consider using the same name for Sean? Did you contact your grandpa?' It's Ventura responded by saying, 'I found it strange at first every now and then, and right now I simply feel that it to be rude,' said the federal prosecutor. Cassie's photographs were also included, gadgets invented by Ventura that demonstrated wounds that she claims to have sustained in Sean Combs' possession. As shown in a single picture filmed in Toronto, she asserted that had to pull her hair back to shield her eye due to an injury. In addition, she talked about in New York, for the jury's freak-out York when using the medicine GHB and passing out, into what she referred to as an abyss. She claimed to have woken up and was a guy. Combs and a nude woman in a bathtub whose names were Dave were going crazy. Ventura has likewise recounted an aeroplane incident in which swapped places in order to escape from. Despite this, he managed to track down Combs and presented her with footage of the crazies. In the event that he departed, I would release them, with her. It is my intention to recruit Rich Schoenstein. He has extensive experience as a trial attorney. After the trial of Sean Combs, add in the process. In what ways do you believe that Cassie, according to what Ventura is saying, deep, rich? Transcripts are the only thing we have. This is what she's describing. A involvement with the person she had feelings for involved with a guy who subsequently attempted to, or putting pressure on, enforcing, and that is required by law, to participate within these outliers. What this also included psychological and physical violence when things turned out differently than he had hoped. I see. Just so you're aware, we're limited to accounts originating from the site that have been quite beneficial for sort of adhering to this trial. Several participants in that live coverage in the courtroom, and it seems like she's pulling it off rather well. Trial testimony. According to the reports, she is articulate, softly uttered, without making eye contact with Combs immediately upon entering the playing field. Indeed, she is somewhat low-key, which is the style that I believe will work with this. Plus, the prosecution is making use of her thoroughly, as an eyewitness her purported experiences with abuse, concerned with his purported crime syndicate, and the individuals implicated his direction and a myriad of other things. Clearly she has a lot to cover, of terrain, finding the precise way that is affecting the jury. You have genuine feelings for someone and you're completely smitten with them, and the thought of wholly to their dismay, while chatting in terms of taking part in these crazy people. As a result, she is removing sobs when uttering these words, as reported by the notices issued by the court, and the transcripts indicate. Okay, then in her description there is, She is involved in a relationship with a comb. There's a disparity in age. A disparity of power exists. Plainly speaking, he holds a position of immense authority in the world of show business. According to her, he has captured her heart. Somebody ropes her in the minds of these lunatics. We observed the moving image. At the hotel, the video is playing. The film with the pounding is played for the jury. That must be quite strong stuff. In order for that footage to be seen by a jury while concurrently attending Cassie's presentation on In This, yeah, I was shocked by the video. As well as wonder, and I get the prosecutor seeking access to that footage in the beginning of this trial. Physical abuse of some kind is evident. There's really no way around that. The things get trickier from here on out. Their relationship is committed to the long haul. She asserts her affection for him. It seems as though perhaps her affections are deeply felt by him. It's worth noting that appears to be in a potentially consenting state. Yet Andrew, I must say it is. We now know that things will be different in 2025, such as power, which are crucial in a connection and the possibility of misuse a committed partnership. That being said, love, even when there's a little bit of agreement, you yet discover the existence of abuse. This is fundamentally a form of domestic violence case. The burden of proof lies with the jury to does this make sense? Does this pertain to the home physical force? Yeah. While it's true that at times, this was done with mutual consent. It's clear that domestic violence exists. Is it sex trafficking if it occurs here? And he's being charged with that federal offense charged with. I simply felt, she says, terrible self-perception. I experienced what disgusting, she said. I felt humiliated. Darkness would engulf his gaze. Here is the updated version of the person I had feelings for has moved on. That's the place. When does it go over the boundary that separates sex trafficking from coercion? And I suppose they're chatting about approaching the topic of cross-state travel. She traverses state borders. The sex workers would be discovered by both of them interacting through online platforms such as that. When does it become sexually explicit? Human trafficking? It becomes sexual, in my opinion. Illegal trade when you're importing sex workers from one state to another and paying the person to do the work. That is human sex trade. Or if you intend to bring she to a different location so that she can engage in sexual activity with another person, that sex trafficking is the theory, though that's a valid argument. This, my friend, clearly, this situation involves domestic abuse, but for it to be considered sex, it must step up a notch. Smuggling, and then it must rise an additional tier to constitute racketeering. Yes, that's that point at which the state's argument gains more intricate and more challenging. I see another quote, when I simply seemed to have a distinct appearance that he was, perhaps I was a brat, huh? Like if he were to just inform me that I required to fix my face or observe my mouth, those constituted the contents of the very frequently. Put on some makeup, be careful what you say, since there's a slick oral cavity. Alright, so these are characteristics of violence amongst family members. And perhaps that contributes to the administration will assert that yes, a significant amount of domestic violence admittedly, however, this does constitute a portion of the sexual trafficking that involves coercion, doesn't it? Certainly not on a personal level. Violent acts. On that terrible night, he triumphed over their motel room. Am I correct? No one has to maybe evaluated based on their worst performance, but there is a consistent pattern to this. You are essentially command over an additional person existence, as well as command and management of she had lived, her profession, her attire, her cosmetics, potential conversation partners, what she might accomplish, her intended destination, when and with whom she had intercourse, it was hers. As far as I can tell, this is their attempt, only prove that this is a case of ubiquitous control. Throughout her life, Sean Combs performed truthfully, his all-encompassing influence on each and every one of his professional and personal life. She brought up the idea of returning to looking down the hall of the hotel. When I decided to depart, she explained, taking all I could carry, I climbed out, and as we entered the corridor, Sean trailed behind me. The elevators, snatched me by the throat and stomped on me, attempted to kick me and then the room and bring me back here. His hand was placed on my stuff. Basically everything refers to the moment in the video when you view it in its entirety, and we've edited passage. Well, it seems like he's treating her really rudely, resuming her position in the room. What I mean is, it is an incredibly startling matter. Executes the video displayed on their own as evidence of the sex assault allegation, Or does it reveal family violence? I can already feel that that is the question that the jury must decide. The jury will be required to respond. Yeah. Personally, I think the video alone demonstrates violent acts. Seen in isolation, the footage fails to trafficking. It is not visible corrupt practice. On its own, the video is him physically abusing his long-term partner, which I suppose is terrible, on which the jury will deliberate, but which fails to establish each and every component of each total this set of assertions. Well, I think it would be fascinating to the jury, you know. You are aware that because I am not standing there observing jury, well, this needs to pack a serious punch to receive a response from Cassie Ventura. Plus, imagine a scenario where the government contacts her from the beginning, Rich? To clarify, on day 2 and on the 3rd day of the study, they are contacting who serves as their primary eyewitness in this instance. In your opinion, was that strange that they contacted her at such a young on? I didn't find it strange, actually. I saw it as a very acceptable tactical shift. These instances, you know, it's important to make a solid opening. You would prefer to debut as soon as possible. If you are the case with a few incredibly powerful proof and you'd also like to finalize strong, primacy is something that is always brought up in our discussions. Recency. We thoroughly address that in these discourses. That is your desire things to perform. Yes, it is true. Consequently, they intended to emerge victorious. In addition to that, does she represent the height of? In addition to that, she repeatedly conceals such a wide range of subjects that are problem in this instance, as she was accompanied by during a decade. She is well versed in which he dealt with her. Nevertheless, she is also aware concerns his personal life, professional career, and organizations suspected of engaging in illegal activities. As a result, you should a witness of that caliber. Just so you know, we have a pregnant woman who is 8 months along. Gonna have her stand trial soon, will we? And I would also in order to acquire the victims I desire they testified before any unusual changes. Therefore, I will be there shortly. Hastily completed that task. As an added bonus, she is expecting a child. In addition to covering a lot of material, it's the case off to a solid start. Makes total feels right. We will certainly monitor it closely. It is, without a doubt, compelling testimony. Rich Schoenstein, I am incredibly grateful. Enjoying my time here. Finally, this concludes it. Crime-solving program. By the way, my name is Angat Levy. You are very welcome to be here with me. I promise to coming back to this soon.